The grand chamber of Sanctum Prime stretched so far that Ambassador Chen could barely see the opposite wall. Hundreds of alien beings filled the floating seats that circled the main floor. Some had scales that shimmered like oil on water. Others glowed with soft light that pulsed like breathing. A few looked like giant insects with too many legs to count. They all turned their attention to the small human standing at the center platform. Chen wore her best uniform, dark blue with gold trim. The Earth's flag patch on her shoulder felt heavier than usual. Behind her stood 6 other humans, the entire diplomatic team that humanity could afford to send. They looked tiny compared to the massive aliens around them. Honored council members, Chen began, her voice carried by floating speakers throughout the chamber. Humanity comes before you today to request full membership in the Galactic Council. We have much to offer your alliance. She activated the holographic display. Images of Earth appeared, showing cities that touched the clouds, farms that fed billions, and ships that could cross the stars. The presentation took 20 minutes. Chen spoke about human art, music, science, and culture. She talked about the 15 colony worlds humanity had settled in just 10 years of faster-than-light travel. A sound rippled through the chamber. It took Chen a moment to realize what it was. Laughter. Not friendly laughter, but the kind that made her face grow hot with embarrassment. Counselor Vex stood from his seat. He was Draxi, a species that looked like walking lizards the size of bears. His scales were deep purple and his yellow eyes gleamed with amusement. The humans wish to join us, he said, his voice booming. These children who only learned to travel the stars 15 years ago think they belong among civilizations that have explored the galaxy for thousands of years. More laughter filled the room. Chen kept her face calm, though her hands formed fists at her sides. We have proven ourselves, Chen said firmly. We have established colonies. We have developed advanced technology. We ask only for the same respect you show each other. A luminary floated forward, its body made of pure light contained in a vague humanoid shape. Respect must be earned, human. Your species still fights wars among yourselves. We have seen your history files. So much violence. So much death. That is our past, Chen replied. We have grown. We have learned. Have you? Akresh clicked its mandibles together, creating a sound like breaking sticks, the insect being tilted its triangular head. Your colony ships carry weapons. Your stations have defense systems. You prepare for war even as you speak of peace. Chen took a deep breath. This was the moment she had been warned about. We carry weapons because the universe is dangerous. We have defense systems because we have learned that peace requires the strength to maintain it. We do not seek war, but we will defend ourselves if threatened. The chamber erupted. Aliens spoke over each other in dozens of languages, creating a wall of noise. Chen heard words translated through her earpiece. Aggressive, primitive, dangerous, warlike. Counselor Vex raised one clawed hand and the chamber fell silent. The human makes threats already. Before she even has a seat among us, she speaks of defense and weapons. This is exactly why humanity is not ready. I make no threats, Chen said, her voice steady despite the anger building in her chest. I state facts. Humanity will defend itself. We ask only that others respect our sovereignty and our rights. Is that not what the Council stands for? The Council stands for civilization, Vex replied. We left behind the barbarism of weapons and warfare 3,000 years ago. We settle disputes with words, not violence. Your species brings the stench of blood and conflict with you. Another counselor stood, this one from a species Chen didn't recognize. It had too many arms and a voice that sounded like wind through trees. Perhaps we are being too harsh. The humans are young. They need guidance, not membership. Vex nodded slowly. I agree. I propose we grant humanity observer status. They may watch our proceedings and learn from us. Perhaps in a few hundred years, when they have matured beyond their violent nature, we can revisit this discussion. The vote happened quickly. Chen watched as lights appeared next to each counselor's seat. Green for yes, red for no. The chamber filled with green light. Every single counselor voted to deny humanity full membership. Observer status is granted, Vex announced. You may maintain an embassy here on Sanctum Prime. You may watch our council sessions. But you have no vote, no voice in our decisions, and no protection under council law. You are welcomed as students, not equals. Chen's jaw tightened. And if someone attacks our colonies? If our people are threatened? Vex smiled, showing too many teeth. Then perhaps you should focus on not making enemies rather than building weapons. The galaxy has been at peace for centuries. Your paranoia is unwarranted. We were told the Council protects its members, one of Chen's assistants said from behind her. You are not members, a Kresh counselor replied. You are observers. There is a difference. Chen looked around the chamber. Some aliens looked sympathetic, but most seemed amused or dismissive. They had made their decision. To them, humanity was nothing more than a curiosity, children playing at being adults. Very well, Chen said finally. Humanity accepts observer status, but we maintain our warning. We will defend ourselves and our people. We hope for peace and cooperation with all Council species, but we will not be victims. The laughter started again. It echoed through the massive chamber as Chen and her team walked toward the exit. Behind them, she heard Vex's voice boom out. Did you hear that? They warn us. These primitives who play with toys they barely understand. Think they can threaten civilizations? That mastered the stars before their ancestors, climbed down from trees. The laughter followed, them all the way to their ship. Even as the airlock sealed behind them, Chen could hear it in her mind. The sound of mockery, the sound of dismissal, the sound of species so comfortable in their peace that they had forgotten why peace needed to be protected. Chen sat in the captain's chair and looked at her team. They all wore the same expression of frustrated anger. Send a full report to Earth, she said quietly. Tell them everything. Tell them we tried diplomacy. What do you think they'll do? Her assistant asked. Chen stared out at the stars beyond the viewport. I think they'll prepare. I think they'll remember that when you warn someone and they laugh. You stop warning them. The ship turned away from Sanctum Prime and jumped to faster-than-light speed, leaving behind a council that had no idea what they had just done. The colony of New Horizon hung in space like a blue and green jewel. 5,000 humans called it home, living in domed cities on the surface and orbital stations above. They had been there for 3 years, turning a barren rock into farmland, mining the asteroid belt nearby, building a future. Governor Martinez stood in the observation deck of the main station, watching the Draxi ships appear. One moment the space beyond was empty. The next moment 20 massive vessels materialized, their hulls decorated with bright colors and symbols that probably meant something important to their species. This is Governor Martinez of New Horizon. Colony, she transmitted on the standard greeting channel. Welcome to our system. How can we help you? The response came after a long pause. This is Captain Zark of the Draxi Mining Consortium. We are here to extract resources from the asteroid belt. You may continue your activities on the planet. We will not interfere with your little settlement. Martinez felt her stomach drop. Captain Zark, we have registered claims to this entire system with the Galactic Council. The asteroid belt is part of our territorial space. You cannot mine here without permission. Another pause. Then something that sounded like laughter came through the speakers. You are an observer species. You have no legal standing to make territorial claims. The Council archives show this system is unclaimed. We are claiming it now under Draxi law. That's not true, Martinez said, her voice rising. We filed all the proper documentation. We have 3 years of work invested here. Those asteroids are our resources. We're your resources, Zark replied. Possession belongs to those with the power to hold it. You may file a complaint with the Council if you wish. I am sure they will address it eventually. In the meantime, we have work to do. The Draxi ships moved into the asteroid belt, their massive mining equipment unfolding like mechanical flowers. Martinez watched helplessly as they began breaking apart asteroids that her people had surveyed and marked for future extraction. She sent emergency messages to Earth immediately. The response came back within hours, as faster-than-light communication allowed. Ambassador Chen would file formal protests with the Council. Earth was sending support ships. Hold on. Don't do anything to provoke them. Martinez held on. For 2 days, she watched the Draxi strip the asteroid belt. Their ships were enormous compared to human vessels, each one the size of a small city. They worked efficiently, breaking apart rock and sorting minerals with technology that made human equipment look primitive. On the 3rd day, she sent a survey ship to document the mining operation. The small vessel, the Pioneer, carried a crew of 8 scientists. Their job was simple: record what the Draxi were doing, collect evidence for the Council complaint. The Pioneer kept its distance, staying well outside the mining zone. Its captain, a careful woman named Torres, made sure to transmit their peaceful intentions on all frequencies. They were just watching, just recording, just documenting. Captain Zark apparently didn't care about their intentions. His destroyer, a warship 3 times the size of the Pioneer, moved to intercept. Warning shots fired across the survey ship's bow, brilliant beams of energy that lit up space like small suns. Torres immediately tried to retreat. She sent frantic messages explaining that they meant no harm, that they were leaving, that there was no need for violence. The Draxi destroyer fired again. This time the shots weren't warnings. The beam weapons cut through the Pioneer like it was made of paper. The small ship broke apart in a flash of light and debris. 17 people died in seconds, their bodies lost in the cold vacuum of space. Martinez watched it happen from the station, too far away to help, too shocked to even scream at first. When her voice came back, she was shouting into the communications channel. "You killed them!" "They were leaving." "They weren't threatening you." Captain Zark's response was calm, almost bored. "An unfortunate accident. My weapons officer misunderstood his orders. He thought your ship was approaching in an aggressive manner. We deeply regret this incident." "Regret?" Martinez could barely speak. "You murdered 17 people. We have offered our apologies," Zark said. "Perhaps your people should learn to stay away from active mining operations. This tragedy could have been avoided if your ship had maintained a safer distance." Martinez sent the recordings to Earth. She sent them to the Galactic Council. She sent them to every embassy and news service she could reach. 17 people dead, and the Draxi called it an accident, blamed the victims for being too close. Ambassador Chen filed emergency motions with the Council, demanding immediate action, calling for sanctions against the Draxi, requesting military protection for New Horizon. The Council promised to investigate. They scheduled a hearing. It would take place in 3 weeks. Maybe 4? The calendar was very full. These things took time. Behind closed doors, Counselor Vex laughed when he heard the news. "The humans are learning an important lesson," he told his aides. "The galaxy belongs to the strong. Perhaps now they will understand their place." Other counselors agreed. The humans had been too bold, too confident. This was unfortunate, yes, but also necessary. Sometimes children needed to touch fire to learn that it burned. Now humanity would learn to be more careful, more respectful of established powers. None of them noticed that Ambassador Chen stopped sending urgent messages after the first week. None of them paid attention when human ships began quietly leaving Council space, returning to human colonies. None of them thought it was strange when human diplomats started declining meetings and social events. At New Horizon, Governor Martinez watched the Draxi continue their mining operation. They were stripping the defenses from the orbital stations now, taking even the basic weapons that colonists used to destroy dangerous asteroids. They did it slowly, deliberately, making sure the humans understood how powerless they were. "When is Earth sending help?" her assistant asked. Martinez looked at the latest message from Earth. It was short, just 3 words. "Hold on, wait." "I don't know," she admitted. "But something's coming. I can feel it." In the Draxi mining ships, the crews joked about the incident. They called the destroyed survey ship the example, and laughed about how the humans had run away with their tails between their legs. Captain Zark was praised for his firm handling of the situation. Some even said he deserved a promotion. In council chambers across the galaxy, species that had never known real war discussed the New Horizon incident with detached academic interest. It was unfortunate. It was regrettable, but it was also a learning opportunity for the humans. Now they would understand how galactic politics really worked. 3 months after the Draxi ships arrived at New Horizon, human space went silent. Every colony, every station, every ship stopped transmitting. Communication channels that had always been open suddenly closed. Transponders that marked human vessels suddenly went dark. The Council found this concerning enough to send investigation teams. They approached human space and received automated warnings. Human territory is restricted. Unauthorized entry will be met with military force. Turn back now, military force. The Council members found that amusing. What military could humans possibly have? They had observer status. They were practically infants in galactic terms. This was probably just posturing, a tantrum thrown by a species that had gotten its feelings hurt. They decided to wait and let the humans calm down. In a few weeks, maybe a month, humanity would come back to the negotiating table. They would be more reasonable then, more willing to accept their place in the galactic order. The Council had no idea that humanity was done negotiating. They had no idea that human shipyards were working at full capacity, that weapons systems were being activated, that plans were being made. They had no idea that they had made a terrible mistake, and that the bill for that mistake was about to come due. Admiral Sarah Okonkwo floated in zero gravity on the bridge of the UNS Vindication, watching the fleet assemble beyond the viewport. 40 warships, each one painted in matte black that drank in light instead of reflecting it. They had been built in secret across a dozen human colonies, hidden in asteroid fields and moon bases, assembled piece by piece where Council sensors wouldn't see them. "Final status report," she said quietly. Her second-in-command, Commander Park, read from his display. "All ships report ready. Weapons systems charged. Crews at battle stations. Jump calculations complete. We can be at New Horizon in 17 minutes. Okonkwo nodded slowly. She was 53 years old, and she had spent 30 of those years in Earth's unified military. She remembered the last war, the final conflict that had united humanity under one government. She remembered the peace that came after, and the promise humanity made to itself. Never again. Never again would humans kill each other, but the promise said nothing about aliens. "How long has it been since the Council last heard from us?" she asked. 2 weeks, Admiral. They've sent investigation ships to the edge of our space. We've turned them all back with automated warnings. And New Horizon? Park's face darkened. The Draxi are still there. They're not just mining anymore. They're stripping the colony's defenses, taking apart the orbital weapons platforms. They're making an example of the colony, showing everyone what happens when humans try to claim territory. Okonkwo closed her eyes for a moment. 17 people dead because they tried to document a theft. 5,000 colonists living under the threat of ships that could destroy their home from orbit. And the Council did nothing. Worse than nothing. They scheduled a hearing weeks away as if human lives could wait for bureaucracy. "Tell me about the Draxi military," she said. Commander Park pulled up files. They're the Council's primary defense force, though defense is a loose term since the Council hasn't fought a war in 3 centuries. Their ships are big and impressive. Good shields, powerful energy weapons, but their tactics are outdated. They fight like it's a sport with rules. "Rules," Okonkwo repeated softly. "And humans? We fight to win, Admiral. That's what we're good at." It was true. The Galactic Council had species that evolved as prey animals, running and hiding from predators. They had species that evolved in peaceful environments, never knowing violence. Even the Draxi, the closest thing to predators in the Council, hadn't fought a real war in living memory. Their conflicts were formal, almost ceremonial. They had forgotten what war really meant. Humanity remembered. Humanity had 10,000 years of warfare burned into their DNA. They had developed every possible way to kill each other, refined the art of violence to a terrible science, and then spent the last 50 years turning all that knowledge outward, away from themselves and toward the stars. The warships floating beyond the viewport looked nothing like Council vessels. Council ships were bright and decorative, showing off wealth and artistic achievement. Human ships were functional, ugly, designed for one purpose only. Every surface was covered in sensors or weapons. Every system was redundant. Every crew member was trained for combat. "What about their shields?" Okonkwo asked. "Designed to stop energy weapons," Park replied. "Plasma beams, lasers, particle cannons. That's what everyone in the Council uses. They've optimized their defenses for those threats. But not kinetic weapons." "No, Admiral. Not kinetic weapons. They consider those primitive, barbaric. Most Council species banned them centuries ago." Okonkwo smiled grimly. Humans had railguns that could throw a projectile at 30% the speed of light. They had missiles with nuclear warheads. They had kinetic kill vehicles that were just chunks of metal moving fast enough to punch through anything. Primitive weapons, maybe, but very, very effective against shields that weren't designed to stop them. "And the cyber warfare package?" she asked. "Ready. We've been monitoring Draxi communications for months. Their security is a joke. They don't encrypt military channels because they've never needed to. Everyone in the Council is so polite and respectful." Okonkwo thought about that. A civilization so peaceful that they forgot to protect their communications. It was beautiful in a way and also terrifyingly naive. "Can we take control of their ships?" "Given enough time?" "Yes, Admiral. We can lock them out of their own systems. The Admiral looked at the timer on her display. 2 weeks since humanity went silent. 2 weeks since they stopped asking for help, stopped begging the Council to do the right thing, stopped trying to play by rules that didn't protect them. The Council thinks we're sulking, she said. They think we're having a tantrum. Yes, Admiral. Good. Let them think that right up until the moment we arrive. She touched the communication panel. All ships, this is Admiral Okonkwo. In 15 minutes we jump to New Horizon. Our mission is simple. Remove the Draxi from our colony. Disable their ships. Minimize casualties. Show them exactly what humans are capable of when they stop asking nicely. 40 ships acknowledged her order. 40 crews prepared for battle. 40 warships that the Council didn't know existed. Designed with technology the Council didn't understand. Crewed by people who came from a species that had been fighting wars since before they had written language. Commander Park looked nervous. Admiral, after this, there's no going back. The Council will know what we've built. They'll know we lied about our military capabilities. We didn't lie, Okonkwo corrected. We just didn't tell them everything. They assumed we were weak because we asked for peace. They assumed we were helpless because we tried diplomacy first. They forgot that choosing peace is different from being incapable of war. What if they unite against us? All the Council species together? Okonkwo considered that. The Council had thousands of ships, hundreds of species, resources that dwarfed humanity's. In a long war, humans would lose eventually. But the Council didn't know how to fight a war. They knew how to fight ceremonial battles where everyone followed rules and accepted defeat gracefully. Humans knew how to fight dirty. Humans knew how to make war so terrible that no one wanted to continue it. If they unite against us, we make it cost more than they're willing to pay, she said simply. We make them understand that fighting humans means losing ships, losing people, losing everything they've built. We make them choose between their pride and their civilization. The timer counted down. 10 minutes, 9-8. Okonkwo thought about Ambassador Chen standing in that council chamber, warning them that humanity would defend itself. She thought about the laughter that followed, the mockery, the dismissal. She thought about 17 people dying because some Draxi captain thought humans were too weak to matter. 7 minutes, Park announced. The fleet moved into jump formation. Each ship aligned perfectly with the others. Human crews sat at their stations, checking weapons one final time. Some prayed. Some wrote messages to families they might never see again. Some just sat quietly, waiting for the moment when everything would change. 3 minutes. Okonkwo activated the fleet-wide channel. This is the Admiral. I know you're all scared. I know you're wondering if we're doing the right thing. I've been asking myself the same question. But then I remember those 17 people on the Pioneer. I remember Governor Martinez and 5,000 colonists living under threat. I remember us trying everything, exhausting every diplomatic option and being laughed at for our trouble. She paused, gathering her thoughts. The Council thinks we're primitives playing with fire. Maybe they're right, but sometimes primitives with fire are exactly what you need when sophisticated civilization fails to protect the innocent. Today we stop asking for permission to exist. Today we stop apologizing for being human. Today we show them what happens when you mistake patience for weakness. 1 minute, Park said softly. Jump on my mark, Okonkwo ordered. 3, 2, 1, mark. Space twisted around them. Reality bent in ways that human minds couldn't quite process. For 17 minutes, that felt like both seconds and eternities. The fleet traveled faster than light, crossing distances that would take years at normal speed. Then they arrived at New Horizon, and the Draxi mining fleet suddenly had company. 40 warships appeared in perfect formation, weapons charged, sensors locked on targets. The silence was over. Now came the lesson. Captain Zark was reviewing mining reports when his sensor officer started making alarmed clicking sounds. The Draxi captain looked up from his display, irritated at the interruption. What is it? He demanded. Ships, Captain. Large, faster-than-light signatures. 20, 30, 40 vessels just appeared 15 light seconds away. Zark felt a moment of confusion. The Council hadn't said anything about sending ships. Then he smiled, his teeth showing in the Draxi expression of satisfaction. Finally, they send someone to deal with these complaining humans. About time the Council showed some backbone. He activated communications. This is Captain Zark of the Draxi Mining Consortium. Council Enforcement Fleet, we welcome your arrival. I have detailed reports prepared about the human violations of proper mining protocols. No response came. Zark frowned. The ships on his sensors were just sitting there, dark and quiet, running on minimal power, almost invisible except for the massive energy signatures from their jump. "Identification?" he asked. His sensor officer worked his console, confusion evident in his posture. "No standard transponders, Captain. No council identification codes. The ships are strange. Small, dense. Their power signatures don't match any known design." A cold feeling started in Zark's stomach. "Show me." The main display lit up with images captured by their long-range sensors. The ships were black, darker than space itself. They had none of the decorative elements that marked civilized vessels. No bright colors, no artistic flourishes, no symbols of cultural achievement. They looked like weapons, nothing but weapons. "Oh," Zark said quietly. Then the human ships lit up all at once. Every sensor array activated, every targeting system locked on. 40 warships painted the Draxi fleet with enough targeting lasers to make space itself glow. The communication channel crackled to life, a human voice, female and calm. "This is Admiral Sarah Okonkwo of the United Nations Starfleet. Captain Zark, you were warned. You violated our sovereignty. You killed 17 of our people. You laughed at our restraint and mistook our mercy for weakness. We are done asking for respect." Zark found his voice. "This is Draxi territory by right of—" "You have 10 minutes, the Admiral interrupted. 10 minutes to power down your weapons, begin evacuation procedures, and prepare to leave this system. After that, we will consider you hostile and act accordingly." The Draxi captain felt his scales ridge up in anger. How dare these primitives threaten him? His fleet consisted of 20 mining barges, each the size of a small city, protected by 5 military destroyers. Each destroyer was 3 times larger than the biggest human ship on his sensors. He had weapons that could crack planets. He had shields that had never been breached in 300 years of service. "I reject your demands," Zark announced, putting all the authority of 3 centuries of Draxi dominance into his voice. "You are an observer species. You have no legal standing. You have no military that the Council recognizes. If you do not withdraw immediately, I will be forced to teach you a lesson about respecting your betters." Silence from the human fleet. Zark smiled. They were backing down, realizing their mistake. As they should. "Very well," the Admiral's voice came back. "You had your chance. All ships weapons free, engage." Zark opened his mouth to give the order to fire, to show these animals what Draxi military power meant. He never got the chance. The human ships moved like nothing he had ever seen. They didn't fly like normal ships, following predictable vectors and maintaining safe distances. They twisted and turned, using New Horizons' moon for gravity assists, breaking every rule of civilized space combat. They scattered in 3 dimensions, making targeting them nearly impossible. His weapons officer fired, great beams of plasma that could melt asteroids. The shots went exactly where the human ships had been half a second ago. They were already somewhere else, moving in patterns that made no sense, that seemed impossible. Then the human weapons fired back. Not energy weapons. Zark's shields could stop those easily. These were chunks of metal moving at speeds that made his mind hurt to comprehend. Kinetic weapons. Primitive, barbaric kinetic weapons that his shields were never designed to handle. The first destroyer took a railgun round directly to its engine section. The projectile went through the shields like they weren't there, punched through the hull and turned the ship's power core into scrap metal. Lights flickered and died. The massive warship went dark, tumbling slowly in space. "Impossible," Zark whispered. The second destroyer tried to target a human frigate that was using the moon's gravity to slingshot past at incredible speed. Before it could fire, 3 human ships hit it from different angles. Precision strikes. They didn't try to destroy it. They surgically removed its weapons, its engines, its ability to fight. Within seconds, the destroyer was floating helpless. The third destroyer managed to get a shot off. It caught a human ship with a plasma beam that should have vaporized the small vessel. But the human ship rolled at the last instant, taking the hit on armored plating specifically designed to dissipate energy. The ship's paint burned off, its hull glowed red-hot, but it kept moving, kept fighting. Then that same human ship fired back. A missile moving so fast, Zark's sensors barely tracked it. Nuclear-tipped. The explosion lit up space like a new sun. When the light faded, the third destroyer was in pieces. "All ships, evasive action," Zark shouted. "Focus fire on individual targets." His fleet tried. They really tried. But they had never fought a real war. Their tactics came from 3 centuries of ceremonial battles where everyone followed rules, where you announced your targets, where you gave warnings, where defeat was acknowledged gracefully. Humans didn't fight like that. Humans fought like demons, like the predators they were descended from. They targeted multiple ships at once. They used the debris from destroyed vessels as cover. They coordinated with a precision that suggested they had been training for this their entire lives. Because they had. Every human in that fleet grew up hearing stories of the last war, the final conflict that almost destroyed their species. Every one of them had ancestors who learned the terrible art of killing other humans. And now all that knowledge, all that experience, all that capacity for violence was focused on a species that had forgotten war was more than ceremony. Zark's own destroyer shuddered as something hit the shields. Then something else. Then a dozen impacts at once. Kinetic rounds from multiple angles, overwhelming the shield generators. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. "Return fire," he ordered desperately. His weapons officer looked at him with wide, terrified eyes. "At what, Captain?" "They're everywhere and nowhere. Every time we target one, 3 more hit us from behind." The mining barges tried to run. They weren't military vessels, just civilian ships with workers who never expected combat. Human ships let them go, focusing on the military destroyers. Not to destroy them, Zark realized with growing horror. To disable them. To leave them floating helpless so they could watch what happened. The 4th destroyer made a desperate move, trying to ram a human cruiser. The human ship simply wasn't there when the destroyer arrived. Instead, it was above and behind, firing down into the destroyer's weakest point. More precision strikes, more systems going dark. 4 minutes. The battle had lasted 4 minutes. 5 Draxi military destroyers, ships that had maintained peace in this sector for centuries, reduced to floating scrap or fleeing wreckage. Zark's ship was dying around him. Life support was failing. Artificial gravity flickered on and off. Half his crew was injured or dead from when a human missile had breached the hull in a non-critical section. They hadn't even tried to kill everyone. They could have aimed for the crew quarters, for the life pods, for anywhere that would maximize casualties. Instead, they surgically dismantled his ship while leaving most of the crew alive. "Captain," his communication officer said, her voice shaking. "The humans are broadcasting this, everything, every second of the battle. They're sending it to every council world, every embassy, every news service in the galaxy." Of course they were. This wasn't just about New Horizon. This was a message. This was humanity showing the entire galaxy what happened when you threatened them. The human admiral's voice came through the speakers again. "Captain Zark, your fleet is disabled. Your mining operation is over. We have not killed your civilians, though we could have. We have not destroyed your crew quarters, though they were vulnerable. We targeted your weapons and your ability to threaten our people. That was a choice, not a weakness." Zark said nothing. What could he say? "Your ships will be allowed to limp back to Draxi space," Okonkwo continued. "Your civilian miners will be given medical care if needed. But understand this, Captain. You came to our system uninvited. You stole our resources. You killed our people. And when we warned you, you laughed. No one is laughing now." Through the viewport, Zark could see human ships moving among the wreckage. They were fast, efficient, methodical. Some were already stripping weapons and computer systems from the disabled destroyers, taking them as prizes or evidence. Others positioned themselves to watch the mining barges, making sure they left. "I want you to go back to your people," the Admiral said. "I want you to tell them what happened here. I want you to tell the Council. Humanity tried diplomacy. We tried respect. We tried following your rules. And when that failed, when you killed our people and laughed at our warnings, we showed you what we are really capable of." A pause. Then her voice came back harder. "Humanity is withdrawing from Council space. Our borders are now closed. Any unauthorized entry will be met with immediate military response. You may have 1,000 years of civilization, but we have 10,000 years of warfare. You laughed at our warnings. You mocked our restraint. You thought we were weak because we chose peace." Another pause. Zark imagined her looking at her fleet, at the destruction they had caused in just 4 minutes. "No one is laughing now," Admiral Okonkwo said. "Go home, Captain. Tell them what you learned today. Tell them that humans will defend themselves. Tell them that mercy is a choice we make, not a weakness you can exploit. And tell them that if they come for us again, we will not be so gentle." The human ships began to withdraw, forming up in their perfect formations. They moved past New Horizon's orbital stations, past the colony itself, and disappeared back into the darkness of space. Zark sat in his ruined ship, surrounded by injured crew members and broken systems, and understood that everything had changed. The galaxy thought humans were primitives. They were wrong. Humans were predators pretending to be prey, weapons waiting for someone stupid enough to pull the trigger, and the Draxi had pulled that trigger. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was chaos. Hundreds of species shouted over each other in dozens of languages. The translation systems struggled to keep up. Counselors floated, stood, or perched in their seats, all of them watching the same recording play over and over on the main display. 4 minutes of the Battle of New Horizon. 4 minutes of human ships moving like nothing the galaxy had seen before. 4 minutes of Draxi military power being dismantled with surgical precision. 4 minutes that changed everything. Counselor Vex stood at his podium, his purple scales darker than usual, his voice shaking with rage. This is an act of war. The humans must be punished. They attacked a legitimate Draxi operation. A luminary counselor pulsed with agitated light. The Draxi killed 17 humans first. The council failed to act. What did we expect would happen? We expected them to follow proper channels. Vex roared. We expected them to wait for the hearing, to accept our judgment, to respect the rule of law. The rule of law that gave them no protection. The luminary's voice was like wind chimes, beautiful even in anger. The rule of law that treated their dead as acceptable losses. Perhaps we should have thought about that before we laughed at them. A Kresh counselor clicked its mandibles nervously. Has anyone analyzed their combat capabilities? Those weapons, those tactics, those ships, where did they come from? The military analyst who had been studying the footage stood to present. She was from a species called the Veloth, known for their logical minds. The human fleet appears to have been built in secret over several years. Their weapons are primarily kinetic-based, designed to bypass energy shields. Their tactics are... She paused, searching for words. Terrifying. They fight like every battle might be their last, like they expect to die and are determined to take their enemies with them. Primitives. Vex spat. Barbaric primitives who defeated your military in 4 minutes, the Veloth analyst interrupted. Counselor Vex, with respect, the Draxi are our primary defense force. If humanity can do this to your ships, what chance do the rest of us have? Silence fell over the chamber. It was the question no one wanted to ask, but everyone was thinking. We have numbers, Vex said, but his voice lacked its usual confidence. The Council has thousands of ships, hundreds of species. We could overwhelm them. The Veloth analyst pulled up tactical simulations. I've been running scenarios since the battle. In a full-scale war, the Council would eventually win through sheer numbers. But the cost? She let the simulations play. They showed human ships taking terrible losses but inflicting far worse. They showed Council fleets winning battles but losing the war as casualties mounted beyond anything the galaxy had experienced in millennia. Acceptable losses, Vex started to say. There are no acceptable losses. A small furry counselor stood, her species known for their pacifism. We built the Council to avoid war. We created laws to prevent violence. And now you want to start a conflict that could kill billions? Because your pride was hurt? This isn't about pride, Vex said. This is about maintaining order. If we let humanity defy us, others will follow. The entire Council structure could collapse. It's already collapsing, the Luminary said quietly. We built it on assumptions that are no longer true. We assumed everyone would choose peace. We assumed violence was a relic of primitive cultures. We assumed that no one would ever need weapons because we had moved beyond that. The humans have shown us how naive we were. Another counselor spoke up, this one elderly even by galactic standards. I have reviewed humanity's history files. Did you know they almost destroyed themselves? Multiple times? They developed nuclear weapons and came within hours of using them to make their entire planet uninhabitable. They fought wars that killed tens of millions of their own people. And somehow they survived all of that and united. Exactly, Vex said. They are violent, dangerous. No, the old counselor interrupted. Don't you see? They are violent, yes, but they chose to stop. They had all this capacity for destruction, and they chose to point it outward instead of at themselves. That's not primitive. That's the most advanced civilization I've ever seen. They mastered the one thing we never had to learn: how to control their own destructive nature. The chamber fell silent again. On the display, the battle footage looped. Human ships dancing through space, Draxi destroyers falling one by one, A demonstration of power so overwhelming that the entire galaxy was watching and wondering what would happen next. They've closed their borders, a counselor noted. All human space is off limits. They're not attacking anyone else. They're not expanding. They're just waiting. Waiting for what? Someone asked. For us to decide what happens next, the Luminari said. They made their point. They showed us they can fight. Now they're seeing if we're smart enough to accept that and move forward, or stupid enough to escalate. 3 months passed. 3 months of debate, argument, and fear. Human space remained closed, a dark zone on every galactic map. Ships that approached were turned back by automated warnings. No trade, no communication, no contact. The Council economy started to hurt. Human colonies had been good trading partners. Human scientists had been making interesting discoveries. Human art and music had been becoming popular. Now all of that was gone and the galaxy felt emptier for it. Some species wanted war, mostly the Draxi, humiliated by their defeat, demanding revenge. But when they looked for allies, they found none. No one wanted to fight humans. No one wanted to be the next object lesson in why you don't laugh at predators. Then, without warning, Ambassador Chen walked through the doors of the council chamber. She hadn't requested permission. She hadn't scheduled an appointment. She just appeared, walking calmly down the main aisle, her footsteps echoing in the shocked silence. She reached the central platform where petitioners stood. She looked around at all the alien faces staring at her, and she smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. 3 months ago, Chen said, her voice carrying perfectly through the chamber, I stood here and asked for respect. I warned you that humanity would defend itself. You laughed. You granted us observer status like you were doing us a favor. You told us to focus on not making enemies. No one interrupted. Every eye was on her. Then the Draxi killed 17 of our people. The council scheduled a hearing weeks away, like our dead could wait for your bureaucracy. So we stopped asking. We stopped waiting. We showed you what happens when you mistake patience for weakness. Counselor Vex started to stand. Chen pointed at him without looking. Sit down, Counselor. I'm not finished. To everyone's surprise, Vex sat. I'm here to present new terms, Chen continued. Not to negotiate. Not to ask. To tell you how this is going to work. First, humanity receives full council membership with all rights and protections. Second, the Draxi pay reparations to the families of the 17 people they murdered. Third, all human territorial claims are recognized and respected. Impossible, Vex growled. You can't demand... Fourth, Chen said, her voice getting harder. Humanity becomes the Council's military defense force. You built a civilization based on hope and peace. That's beautiful. That's worth protecting. But hope isn't a strategy, and peace isn't just the absence of violence. It's the choice not to use violence when you have the capacity for it. We have that capacity. We've proven it. Now we'll use it to protect you. The chamber erupted. Aliens shouted. Some in anger, some in agreement, some in fear. Chen waited for the noise to die down. You have a choice. Accept these terms and humanity rejoins galactic civilization. We'll open our borders. We'll share our technology. We'll protect the Council from threats you've forgotten how to face. Or refuse and human space stays closed. You'll never know what we're building behind those borders. You'll wonder every day if we're preparing for war. You'll look at your own ships and know they can't stand against us. This is blackmail, Vex said. This is reality, Chen corrected. You created a system where might makes right. Where territorial claims belong to those strong enough to hold them. Where species without power have no protection. Those were your rules. We just showed you what happens when someone stronger than you plays by them. The Luminary Counselor floated forward. And if we accept, what guarantee do we have that humanity won't turn on us? That you won't use this military power to conquer rather than protect? Chen's expression softened slightly. The same guarantee you gave us when we asked for protection. None. You have to trust us. The difference is we've earned that trust. We had the power to destroy the Draxi fleet completely. We could have killed everyone on those ships. Instead, we disabled them and let them go. We could attack your undefended worlds right now. Instead, we're standing here offering partnership. Why? The Luminari asked. Why offer to protect civilizations that mocked you? Because, Chen said quietly, we spent 10,000 years learning to kill each other. We got very, very good at it. So good that we almost ended ourselves. When we finally stopped, when we finally united, we made a promise. Never again would we use our capacity for violence against other humans. But we never said anything about using it to protect others. She looked around the chamber. You built something beautiful here. A civilization based on cooperation and peace. We want to be part of that. But we also know that beautiful things need guardians and guardians need teeth. You've forgotten how to be violent. We haven't. Let us do what we're good at so you can keep doing what you're good at. The vote was called. Every counselor looked at their display, considering the choice. Accept humanity's terms or reject them and face an uncertain future with a species that could destroy them, hiding behind closed borders. One by one, the votes came in. Green lights appeared next to names. Even Counselor Vex, after a long moment, voted green. It was unanimous. Welcome to the Galactic Council, the Luminary said formally. Full members with all rights, privileges, and responsibilities. Chen nodded. Human borders will reopen within the week. We'll begin integrating our defense forces with Council operations. And Counselor Vex, she looked at the Draxi, I'll expect those reparations within the month. Vex's scales darkened with anger, but he nodded. He had no choice. As Chen left the chamber, she allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had tried to be peaceful. They had tried to be civilized. And when that failed, they had shown the galaxy what they really were. Not peaceful by nature, but peaceful by choice. Not weak, but restrained. Not helpless, but patient. The galaxy had laughed at their warnings. Now the galaxy would learn to listen when humans spoke, not because humanity demanded it, but because everyone had seen what happened when you didn't. Admiral Okonkwo received the news on the Vindication. The fleet was standing down but staying ready, patrolling the borders of human space, not threatening anyone, just watching, just being visible, just reminding everyone that humanity was armed and dangerous and choosing, every single day, not to use that danger. Think it'll last? Commander Park asked. This peace? Okonkwo looked at the stars beyond the viewport. As long as we're scary enough that no one wants to test us, and trustworthy enough that everyone believes we won't abuse that fear. It's a narrow path to walk, but we can walk it, Park said. We have to, Okonkwo replied. Because we proved something important today. We proved that violence isn't strength. Restraint is. Anyone can destroy. It takes real power to choose not to. The galaxy forgot that. We had to remind them. On Earth, in the unified government chambers, they celebrated humanity's new place in the galaxy. Full council members, respected, protected, and protectors. The laughter had stopped. In its place was something better than fear or friendship. It was respect, earned through the terrible demonstration that humanity was the most dangerous thing in the galaxy, precisely because they worked so hard not to be. And across the stars, on 1,000 worlds in 100 languages, beings told the story of how humanity warned them, and no one listened, and the ships arrived, and everything changed. It became a lesson taught to young ones everywhere. Never mistake kindness for weakness. Never assume peace means powerlessness, and never ever laugh when someone warns you, because sometimes the ones asking for peace are the ones who understand war best of all.